Today's character is one that I was referred to as many times whilst I was working in a pub as a barman/waiter. Especially whenever I made an error with an order. So on behalf of all those times I was asked whether I had a Spanish cousin working in a Torquay hotel, I'd just like to say, John Cleese, up yours, you comedy god. Fawlty Towers is the most famous and critically acclaimed British sitcom from the classic era of said genre, and deservedly so, as the show is a real pinnacle of how clever farces can be, and contains some of the funniest moments in TV history, and some of the most brilliantly eccentric characters.
Look, shut up.
Eh?
Shut up.
Oh, si, shut up. Yes, I understand.
Well,
Yes.
will you please shut up?
Si, I shut up.
Now, while we're away...
Shut up.
Shut up!
Eh?
The fact only 12 episodes in total were made has led to British sitcoms being teased for only producing a handful of episodes, thus automatically making them inferior to USA sitcoms that usually contain at least 20 episodes per season, forgetting or ignoring the fact that the UK is home to the longest running sitcom ever, and the concept of going out on a high note, which very few American shows seem to be capable of.
I think you're the rudest man I've ever met.
I haven't started yet.
Written by ex-Monty Python member John Cleese and his wife at the time Connie Booth, the show was a hit in every country it has aired in, with the exception of Spain for understandable reasons.
Hey, go!
The creation of the iconic Basil Fawlty is wildly known for being based on the thoroughly oddly ill-tempered Donald Sinclair, proprietor of the Glen Eagles Hotel, but the put-upon waiter and luggage porter, whose grasp of the English language is as minimal as his boss's grasp of Spanish, stemmed from a more general observation.
You're a waste of space.
Manuel's character was based on a bitter business fact that some are continuing to this very day. Hiring people from foreign countries to get out of paying them the correct minimum wage, and not bothering to train them properly for the job, or more importantly, make sure their knowledge of the language that shall be thrust upon them is reasonably good.
How are you, sir? You see, I speak English well. I learn it from a book.
According to John Cleese, most fans consider the Spaniard of being an idiot, which he feels is unfair. And rightly so. Manuel's blunders occur from the language barrier between him, his employer, and the hotel guests. If you threw any of the world's brightest into a situation where they had to cater for people's orders in a language they had never been able to master at school, they'd come across as complete simpletons.
7 is what I think you say. Come si dice en inglés, pero solamente puedo ver los números cuando los tengo delante.
The patty and the lamb.
Si, pate lamba.
Manuel was played by Andrew Sachs, best known for being one of the voices in the very first film I reviewed, and for narrating several things. And for voicing Snowy in the short-lived radio adaptation of Tintin.
All work and no play.
Sachs agreed to play Manuel despite a worry that his Spanish accent wouldn't sound very authentic, and even asked Cleese if the character's nationality could be changed to German, as that was his native language. To which Cleese responded with an "I don't think so," which a 1-year-old Gina Yashere, who just happened to be passing by, swore to use as a catchphrase should she ever become a regular on the 2003 revival of The Lenny Henry Show. But less about that later. Much less.
Okay.
Oh, Buddha. Look,
John Cleese apparently has disdain for shows that use catchphrases, meaning he would spontaneously combust if he ever tried watching a low. So while many view Manuel's recurring response to things he doesn't understand as a catchphrase, it simply had to be there as a genuine response. Just like Corporal Jones's permission to speak line. However, the fact Cleese doesn't consider the often overlooked line, "he's from Barcelona," a catchphrase, seems quite silly. Aloha, es el momento de las Chronicles de Manuel, and since my last Character Chronicles video was over 30 minutes long, I'm glad they only made 12 episodes of Fawlty Towers. And I never thought I'd hear myself say that. The first episode of the first series, which like all great programmes was originally panned by critics, aired on the 19th of September 1975, and the opening scene set up the premise for which a good chunk of the show's humour was going to be served from.
There is too much butter on those trays.
No, senor.
What?
Not on those trays. No, sir. Uno, dos, tres. No.
This also gives us the only explanation as to why Manuel was hired.
Oh, I don't know why you wanted to hire him, Basil.
Because he's cheap and keen to learn, dear.
Basil has chosen to keep the Spaniard working for them, rather than lose face to his nagging wife Sybil, a theme that will be the root of the show. In a touch of class, with one of his guests claiming to be a lord, Basil is forced to act very polite for a change. Meanwhile, Manuel pops up every so often, just to hammer in Basil's absurd rudeness. In The Builders, Manuel is left in charge of the hotel after the Keeper of Peace, Polly, falls asleep, and thus some shoddy builders Basil hired, against Sybil's orders, turn the dining room door into a wall and put a door in front of the staircase.
You fell asleep and it's not your fault!
You forgot to wake me!
Who forgot to wake you?
It is my fault!
Manuel! I knew it! Manuel!
Good morning.
I beg your pardon?
Good morning.
One moment, please.
Manuel would receive mucho pain over the course of the series, but this is undoubtedly the worst beating he gets.
Good morning, Major.
That was the finest beating I ever took.
Stop it, John Cleese. Andrew Sachs's foot doesn't deserve such punishment. In The Wedding Party, Basil keeps catching a family in hugging situations, making him fear he has a group of adulterers staying in his hotel, while they keep catching him in questionable positions with Manuel, making them fear that Basil is gay.
He's at it again.
It's disgusting!
Fuck you, you homophobic bitch!
Niggers.
You see, the episode begins on Manuel's birthday, so that night he goes out and gets drunk. Though since he has no family staying in Torquay and no friends are ever mentioned, I do wonder who he went partying with. Consequently, the next morning he is suffering from a hell of a hangover and a stifling strangling. And that night, when Basil mistakes him for a burglar, John Cleese actually knocked out Andrew Sachs.
Wow!
You do? Who told you that?
I don't know.
The hotel inspector takes place over one lunchtime when Basil fears that one of the two new guests may be an inspector of hotels. As the keen but baffled waiter, Manuel proceeds to get food and drink orders wrong, but mostly makes Basil's mistakes even bigger.
Manuel! How did you get it?
The waiter opened it for me.
The waiter opened it for you?
Yes.
I've told you about him, haven't I? See?
In Gourmet Night, Basil and Sybil attempt to arrange a gourmet night. God, these episode titles are self-explanatory. With help from Francois, who has taken a break from being Chief Inspector Dreyfus's secretary and opened a nearby restaurant. But the chef from the restaurant is in love with Manuel, and when he denies his advances, proceeds to get drunk, just as the guests arrive.
Sorry.
This leads to Basil having to rush back and forth to Francois in the quest for roast duck. And now we reach the final episode of the first series, and quite possibly the finest episode of TV comedy ever. The Fire Drill. Okay, the Germans, but even John Cleese admits the episode should have been called that.
Oh, no, please. No.
In order to create the illusion that Manuel's clothes were burnt, they were covered in certain chemicals that, when combined, would cause smoke. But during the rehearsal, Sachs found his body was getting hot under the collar, and took off his shirt to find the chemicals had left acid burns on his skin. You know, Mr. Trivia Man, maybe instead of just doing 1 per video, you could have done 5, thereby attracting the people who fap off to top 10 lists. You jackass. For the casual viewer who might have missed it, Manuel was the cause of triggering Basil's deranged German bashing concussion, thanks to him holding the frying pan, which Basil tapped his head on. For years I always thought Basil's reasoning for going berserk was because his mind snapped, just like Eddie's did in that one episode of Ed, Ed and Eddie.
But now this is terrible. He holds the pan there and I straighten up into it. And that's pathetic. And I'm ashamed of it. We should have found a way for me to bang my head unbelievably hard.
The second series began 4 years later in 1979 with communication problems, which starts off with Manuel wearing a smart red coat, which he will never be seen wearing ever again. A constantly complaining deaf woman is staying at the hotel, and in addition to this firing up Basil's blood pressure, he has to keep his winnings from a racehorse hidden from the mighty dragon, as she has, naturally, forbid him to gamble.
Manuel, you know nothing.
You always say, Mr. Fawlty, but I learn.
What?
I learn.
No.
I get better.
No, you don't understand.
I do.
No, you don't.
I do understand.
Don't say anything to anyone about the horse. Tell Mrs. Richards. Tell her I had the money yesterday.
I know nothing. Nothing.
No, forget that.
No, I forget everything. I know nothing.
No, please. Kill her.
Wow, did not see that coming.
The Psychiatrist involves Basil trying to prove that a groovy dude has sneaked a girl into his room for the night, which is against the rules. Manuel is enlisted to help, but predictably ends up making the situation worse for his boss.
What was he doing up the ladder?
He tried to see girl.
What?
He tried to see in room to see girl. She make him crazy. Come.
I see.
Hello, dear. Just going to,
I say to her, you tried to see in girl's room. And she go crazy.
Let's get ready to rumble!
In Waldorf Salad, Manuel leaves the episode after 10 minutes, as he, Polly and Terry the chef have finished their shifts for the day. Though since Manuel lives at the hotel, it could just be he's going out for a meal with them, which would be ironic considering what happens in this episode. The Kipper and the Corpse gave us another prominent appearance from Manuel, as he and Polly help Basil to carry the body of a guest who died in his sleep from his bedroom to the receptionist office. An easy procedure, but not when there are guests popping up around every corner. Probably should have just done it at night. Or just chucked him out the window. Manuel also finds himself in confrontation with a spoiled Shih Tzu and a sausage-obsessed doctor.
Look, I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor and I want my sausages.
Manuel, let me explain.
Don't worry, Manuel. Here's something to relieve the pain. In the anniversary, Basil has asked Manuel to make a paella for the anniversary of the Fawlty's marriage. But Terry is uncharacteristically outraged he wasn't given the task, and spends the rest of the episode sabotaging Manuel's dish. But Basil has bigger problems, as he pretended to forget the occasion, and now Sybil has stormed out, just as their friends arrive for the party he planned, leaving him to do the only thing he knows how. Lie.
Mr. Fawlty. He put mince in it. He
put bloody mince in it, you done! Oh, sorry.
Basil the Rat turned out to be the last episode of Fawlty Towers.
The health inspector!
The hotel is threatened to be closed down unless its health and safety increases immediately. After explaining the situation to Manuel's bedroom, Basil notices that his employee has a pet rat, which Manuel was duped into buying after the shopkeeper told him it was a Siberian hamster. Insert reference to the dead parrot sketch here.
I want to buy some cheese!
Polly says a friend of hers could look after the vermin, but this was a lie, and she puts it in their garage, where it could be caught by the local cat, freeze to death, or be discovered by Basil. Great plan. On the day the health inspector revisits to check for changes, the rat escapes, and through lying about a bomb scare, almost feeding the guests veal coated with poison, and trying to keep the Major quiet, the rat is finally found by the inspector. The last image of the series is of Manuel dragging a fainted Basil out the room. Was the hotel closed down? Did Basil finally fire Manuel? We'll never know. But if they survived this incident...
No! Oh!
they could survive anything. The popularity of the character led to Andrew Sachs being asked to play Manuel in a few amusing adverts.
Cart door, okay? Cart door. See. What's the matter with the fellow? Si, senor. I got car door.
And he made a child's dream come true by giving them a brief Spanish lesson on Jim'll Fix It. But then Jimmy went and spoiled it all by making that child's nightmare come true. And speaking of inappropriate...
Yes!
Hello, Andrew Sachs, this is Russell Brand.
Oh, you're gonna listen.
He fucked your granddaughter. I can't help it. You were talking about it and it was in my head. I apologise.
Jonathan! Andrew Sachs, I did not do nothing with Georgina. Oh no, I've revealed I know her name!
See, one moment, please.
Oh, it's a disaster.
In 2008, Jonathan Ross, douchebag, and Russell Brand, tosser, phoned Andrew Sachs while on the radio and left messages on his answering machine making fun of the fact that Brand had had a relationship with Sachs's granddaughter, who had grown up to become a delightfully slutty erotic dancer. Consequently, Russell Brand resigned from the BBC, Jonathan Ross was suspended for 3 months, and Andrew Sachs was left feeling humiliated by the now public knowledge of his granddaughter's occupation. The only reason I have brought this up is because the incident gave John Cleese an idea and a way to give his old acquaintance a standing ovation by having him cameo in
We Are Most Amused,
a month after the prank call incident. This is the closest we're going to get to a Fawlty Towers reunion, folks. Soak it in.
Manuel, I have a question for you. Si. What is the 11th letter of the English alphabet?
Okay.
Go and get me a hammer.
Hammer. Oh, a hammer sandwich.
Oh, do I have to go through this every time? Look, a hammer.
My hamster?
No, not your hamster. How can I knock a nail in with your hamster? Well, I could try.
Part of what makes the character appealing is that he is always friendly, eager to help, and tries his best to understand what exactly people are saying to him, usually to no avail. His size in comparison to the over 6-foot Basil, and also his mannerisms, make him appear very childlike, and with the knowledge of the abuse that is regularly dished out to him, his mere presence on screen can't help but warm our hearts. This is Jeffrey Kitch saying that this is Jiffy Sketcher. Get it? Because anagrams are synonymous with Fawlty Towers. Or should I say, flowery twats? Adios.
I'm so sorry, he's from Scotland.